You thought you'd turned out the lights.
But in the quiet darkness,
Some stories refuse to stay buried. Bedtime Stories. Uncover the truth. Subscribe if you dare.
Close your eyes. Tonight, we journey to a place that may never have existed. A city lost beneath the waves, a civilization swallowed by the sea in a single day, in a single night. For over 2,000 years, humanity has searched for it. Explorers, archaeologists, dreamers, all seeking the same thing. Atlantis. The name alone conjures images: grand temples, gleaming towers, rings of water, surrounding rings of land. A society advanced beyond measure, wise, powerful, perfect. And then gone. But was it real? Or was it merely a story, a myth, told by a philosopher to make a point? We do not know. And perhaps that is why we cannot stop searching. Tonight, we will explore the mystery. We will hear the original tale. We will follow the theories. We will wander through possibilities. And along the way, you may drift into sleep, into dreams. That is perfectly fine. Let the story carry you like waves, gentle, slow, inevitable. Let us begin. Our journey starts in Athens in the year 360 BCE, Plato's account. The philosopher Plato sits in his academy. He is old now, his beard long and white, his eyes still sharp. He is writing two dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. In these texts, he tells a story he claims is true. He says, it was told to his ancestor Solon, the great Athenian lawmaker, who traveled to Egypt, and there, in the temple of Saius, an old priest shared a secret. A secret about a lost civilization. The priest said, "You Greeks are but children. You know nothing of the deep past. But we Egyptians, we remember." And he told Solon of Atlantis. According to Plato, Atlantis existed 9,000 years before his time, beyond the Pillars of Hercules, beyond what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. It was an island, larger than Libya and Asia combined, a vast, fertile, powerful land. And on this island lived a great civilization. Let us imagine it. The capital city was built in concentric circles, rings of land, rings of water, alternating like a target. At the very center stood a temple, the temple of Poseidon, the god of the sea, the patron of Atlantis. The temple was magnificent, its walls covered in silver, its roof adorned with gold. Inside, a massive statue of Poseidon, standing in a chariot, pulled by winged horses. Around the temple, the palace of the kings, built of red, white, and black stone, quarried from the island itself. The rings of water were connected by tunnels large enough for ships to pass through. The outermost ring open to the sea. And beyond the city, the island bloomed. Forests, mountains, plains, rivers, hot springs, cold springs. The land provided everything. Fruits, vegetables, timber, minerals, and elephants. Plato mentions elephants. The Atlanteans were prosperous, advanced. They built harbors, bridges, aqueducts. They mined precious metals. They traded with distant lands. But they were not merely wealthy. They were, according to Plato, wise, noble, virtuous. For many generations, the kings of Atlantis were descended from Poseidon himself. The god had fallen in love with a mortal woman, Cleito. He built the ringed city to protect her. They had 10 sons, and these sons became the first kings. The island was divided among them. The eldest, Atlas, ruled the central city, and from him, the island took its name. For generations, the kings ruled justly. They followed the laws, inscribed on a pillar of orichalcum, a mysterious metal found only in Atlantis. Every 5 or 6 years, the kings would gather. They would sacrifice a bull and renew their oaths. They were, Plato says, divine. But over time, something changed. The divine portion within them began to fade. The mortal nature grew stronger. They became ambitious, greedy, corrupt. They looked beyond their island. They wanted more. And so they began to conquer. Their army swept across the Mediterranean. They took Libya, Egypt, parts of Europe. They approached Athens. But Athens, small though it was, resisted. The Athenians fought, and they won. They drove back the Atlantean invaders. And then the gods intervened. Zeus, king of the gods, saw the corruption of Atlantis. He saw their arrogance, their hubris, and he decided to punish them. In a single day, in a single night, there were earthquakes, floods, the earth shook, the sea rose, and Atlantis sank. The entire island, swallowed by the ocean, every temple, every palace, every person, gone. And the sea, where Atlantis once stood, became impassable, filled with mud, shallow, dangerous. That is Plato's account. But why did he write it? Most scholars believe Plato invented Atlantis as a philosophical allegory, a cautionary tale. He was writing about the ideal state and its opposite. Athens, in his story, represents virtue, discipline, justice. Atlantis represents decline, corruption, the dangers of power and wealth. Plato wanted to warn his fellow Athenians. He wanted to show what happens when a civilization loses its way. And so he created Atlantis, a perfect society that fell. A myth, a lesson. But some people believed it was real. And they began to search. For over 2,000 years, explorers, historians, and dreamers have looked for Atlantis. Where could it be? Some said the Atlantic Ocean, beyond Gibraltar, just as Plato described. Others said the Mediterranean, perhaps Santorini or Crete. Still others looked further, the Caribbean, Antarctica, even the North Sea. Hundreds of locations have been proposed. But no one has found it. And yet the search continues. Because the story will not let us go. Let us explore some theories. Let us wander through the possibilities. We begin with the most famous, the Minoan hypothesis. Part 3, the Minoan theory. In 1900, a British archaeologist named Arthur Evans began excavating on the island of Crete. He was searching for the legendary palace of Knossos, the home of King Minos, the labyrinth of the Minotaur. What he found astonished the world. A vast palace, multi-storied, complex, advanced. Frescoes of dolphins, bulls, priestesses, bright colors, elegant designs. Plumbing, drainage systems, storage rooms filled with giant jars. This was the Minoan civilization, named after the mythical king. And it was unlike anything anyone had expected. The Minoans flourished from around 2700 to 1450 BCE. They were a Bronze Age people, seafaring, trading, wealthy. Their influence spread across the Aegean, to mainland Greece, to the islands, to Egypt. They built grand palaces, not just at Knossos, but at Phaistos, Malea, Zakros. They created art, pottery, jewelry. They wrote in a script we still cannot fully read, Linear A. They were advanced, sophisticated, peaceful. But around 1450 BCE, something happened. The palaces were destroyed. The civilization collapsed. What caused it? In 1967, a Greek archaeologist named what caused it. In 1967, a Greek archaeologist named Spiridon Marinatos proposed a theory. He believed the Minoans were destroyed by a volcanic eruption. Not on Crete itself, but on a nearby island. Santorini. Today, Santorini is a crescent-shaped island, beautiful. White buildings, blue domes perched on cliffs. But 3,500 years ago, it was different. It was called Thera, and it was round, a volcanic island with a mountain at its center. Around 1600 BCE, that volcano erupted. It was one of the largest volcanic eruptions in human history. The explosion was catastrophic. The center of the island collapsed, leaving behind a caldera, a massive crater filled with water. The eruption sent ash and pumice across the Mediterranean. It darkened the sky, it poisoned the air. And it triggered a tsunami. Waves at perhaps 100 feet high raced across the sea. They struck Crete. They destroyed coastal settlements, harbors, ships. Marinatos believed this was the end of the Minoans. And he believed this was the origin of the Atlantis story. Think about it. An advanced island civilization destroyed in a single day by earthquakes, by floods, by the sea. Swallowed by water. The parallels are striking. But there are problems. Plato said Atlantis was beyond the Pillars of Hercules in the Atlantic Ocean, not the Aegean. He said it sank 9,000 years before his time. The Minoan eruption was only about 1,000 years before. He said, Atlantis was larger than Libya and Asia combined. Crete is not that large. Supporters of the theory have explanations. Perhaps Plato exaggerated or misunderstood. Perhaps the Egyptian priests got the numbers wrong. Perhaps beyond the Pillars of Hercules was symbolic, meaning far away, unknown. Perhaps the story was passed down and changed over centuries. Perhaps. In the 1960s, excavations began on Santorini at a site called Akrotiri. What they found was remarkable. An entire Bronze Age city preserved beneath volcanic ash. Multi-story buildings, frescoes, pottery, furniture, even plumbing. It was like Pompeii, frozen in time. The city was clearly Minoan, or closely related. The art, the architecture, the culture. And it had been abandoned before the eruption. The people had time to leave. There were no bodies, no treasures left behind. They knew it was coming. But the city itself was destroyed, buried, lost. Could this be Atlantis? Many believe it could be the inspiration. A beautiful advanced island civilization destroyed by a volcano, swallowed by the sea. The story passed down, embellished, changed. Until it became the legend. But others are not convinced. They point out Plato's details don't match. The location, the size, the timeline. They say, if Plato meant Santorini, why didn't he just say so? Why invent a fictional location? The debate continues. But the Minoan theory remains popular because it offers something tangible. A real civilization, a real disaster, a real possibility. Let us move on to another theory, one that looks beyond the Mediterranean, to the Atlantic Ocean itself, the Atlantic theories. If we take Plato at his word, Atlantis was in the Atlantic Ocean. Beyond the Pillars of Hercules, beyond Gibraltar. Out in the open sea. But where? The Atlantic is vast, deep, and mostly empty. Could an entire island have existed there and then vanished? Some say yes. One theory points to the mid-Atlantic ridge. This is an underwater mountain range running down the center of the Atlantic from Iceland to the Antarctic. It marks the boundary between tectonic plates, the Eurasian and North American plates, the African and South American plates. These plates are moving apart slowly, creating new ocean floor. In some places, the ridge rises above the water, forming islands. Iceland, the Azores, Ascension Island. Could Atlantis have been one of these islands, now submerged? In the early 20th century, a German researcher named Otto Muck proposed this idea. He believed Atlantis was near the Azores, a large island or a group of islands. He claimed it was destroyed by an asteroid impact around 10,000 BCE. The impact caused earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tsunamis, and the island sank. He even calculated the exact date, June 5th, 8498 BCE. But there is no evidence. No asteroid crater, no geological signs of a sudden sinking, no ruins on the ocean floor. The Azores are volcanic. They rise and fall over millions of years, not overnight. Another theory looks to the Caribbean. Some researchers have suggested Atlantis was in the Bahamas or near Cuba. In 1968, divers discovered what looked like a road underwater near the island of Bimini. Large rectangular stones, arranged in a line, stretching for half a mile. Could this be evidence of Atlantis? The discovery caused excitement. Books were written, expeditions launched. But geologists examined the stones and concluded they were natural. Beach rock, limestone, fractured by natural processes, not built by humans. Still, some believe. They point to other underwater structures, near Cuba, near the Bahamas, formations that look almost artificial. But again, no definitive proof. Then there is Antarctica. Yes, Antarctica. In 1958, Charles Hapgood, a professor of history, published a controversial theory. He proposed that the Earth's crust could shift suddenly, moving entire continents thousands of miles. He called it crustal displacement. Hapgood believed Antarctica was once much further north, in a temperate zone, ice-free. And then, around 10,000 BCE, the crust shifted. Antarctica moved south into the polar region. It froze rapidly. And any civilization that had existed there was buried beneath miles of ice. Could that civilization have been Atlantis? Hapgood's theory was supported by some, including Albert Einstein, who wrote a foreword to his book. But most geologists rejected it. There is no mechanism for such rapid crustal shifts. Plate tectonics moves continents, but slowly, over millions of years. Still, the idea persists. Some point to ancient maps, like the Piri Reis map from 1513. It shows the coast of Antarctica, supposedly without ice. How could a 16th century mapmaker know what Antarctica looked like beneath the ice? Unless he was copying older maps from a time when Antarctica was ice-free. But scholars have examined the Piri Reis map and concluded it does not show Antarctica. It shows South America, distorted, misunderstood. The Antarctica theory lacks evidence. And yet, it captures the imagination. A lost continent, frozen, hidden, waiting to be discovered. It is romantic, mysterious. But probably not true. Let us consider another possibility. One closer to home. Part 5, Other Theories. Not all theories place Atlantis in the ocean. Some researchers have looked inland to places that seem unlikely, but intriguing. Let us explore a few. First, Spain. In 2011, a documentary filmmaker named Richard Freund claimed to have found Atlantis. Where? In the marshland of southern Spain, near the city of Cadiz. Freund used satellite imagery, ground-penetrating radar, and historical analysis. He identified what he believed were ruins buried beneath the mud in Doñana National Park. He argued this area was once a coastal plain before sea levels rose, before a tsunami struck. The tsunami, he said, was caused by an earthquake or in the landslide in the Atlantic. It swept inland, destroying the city, burying it in mud and sand. The theory gained attention, headlines around the world. But Spanish archaeologists were skeptical. They pointed out the ruins Freund identified were likely natural formations or Roman-era structures. There was no evidence of a Bronze Age city, no pottery, no inscriptions, nothing matching Plato's description. The theory had faded. But Spain remains a popular location. Some believe Atlantis was Tartessos, an ancient civilization that flourished in southern Spain around 1000 BCE. Tartessos was wealthy, advanced. It traded with the Phoenicians, the Greeks. And then it disappeared around 500 BCE. No one knows why. Could Tartessos be the origin of the Atlantis legend? Perhaps. But the timeline doesn't match. Tartessos existed long after Plato's Atlantis supposedly sank. Unless Plato's timeline was wrong. Another theory points to the Sahara Desert. Yes, the Sahara. In the 1960s, satellite images revealed a strange formation in Mauritania. The Rishat structure, also called the Eye of the Sahara. It is a massive circular formation, nearly 30 miles across, with concentric rings. From above, it looks almost artificial. Some researchers saw the rings and thought of Atlantis. Plato described concentric rings of land and water. Could this be the remains? But geologists have studied the Rishat structure and concluded it is natural. A geological dome eroded over millions of years, not built by humans. And there is no evidence of an ancient city, no ruins, no artifacts. Still, the resemblance is striking. And the Sahara was not always a desert. Thousands of years ago, it was green, fertile. Rivers flowed, lakes existed. Could a civilization have thrived there and then been forgotten? It is possible. But without evidence, it remains speculation. Then there is the Black Sea. In the 1990s, geologists Robert Ballard and Walter Pittman proposed a theory. They suggested the Black Sea was once a freshwater lake, smaller, lower. Around 5600 BCE, something happened. The Mediterranean Sea broke through at the Bosphorus Strait. Water poured in, a massive flood. The lake then became a sea. Coastal settlements were submerged. People were displaced. Could this flood be the origin of the Atlantis story and other flood myths? Like Noah's Ark, the Epic of Gilgamesh. It is an intriguing idea. But again, the details don't match. The Black Sea flood happened thousands of years before Plato's timeline. And there is no evidence of a grand civilization like Atlantis. Finally, there are theories that place Atlantis in the North Sea. Or it is in Indonesia, or in the Mediterranean near Malta. Dozens of locations, hundreds of theories. Each one finds some detail in Plato's account and tries to match it. But none have provided definitive proof. And perhaps that is because Atlantis never existed. Let us consider that possibility. What if Plato made it up? What if Atlantis was always just a story? Part 6. The philosophical interpretation. Most scholars agree. Atlantis was not a real place. It was a literary device, a thought experiment, a parable. Plato was a philosopher, not a historian. He wrote dialogues, conversations between characters, exploring ideas. Justice, virtue, the ideal state. In the dialogues Timaeus and Critias, he was exploring political philosophy. What makes a good society? Athens, in Plato's story, represents the ideal. Small, disciplined, virtuous, governed by philosopher kings. Atlantis represents the opposite. Large, wealthy, powerful, but corrupt, arrogant, doomed. Plato was warning his fellow Athenians. He was saying, do not become like Atlantis. Do not let wealth corrupt you. Do not let power blind you. Remember what matters: justice, wisdom, virtue. The story was a cautionary tale. And it worked because we still remember it 2,000 years later. But why? Did people believe it was real? Perhaps because Plato presented it as real. He claimed it was told to Solon by Egyptian priests who had ancient records. He gave specific details, numbers, descriptions. He made it sound true. And people wanted to believe. Because Atlantis represents something. It represents a lost golden age, a time when humanity was better. Wiser, nobler, more advanced. We long for it, we search for it. Even though it may never have existed. This longing is ancient. The Greeks had their golden age, the Garden of the Hesperides. The Hebrews had Eden. The Hindus had Dvaraka, a city that sank beneath the sea. Every culture has a story of paradise lost. Atlantis is ours. It is the dream of perfection and the fear of losing it. It is a mirror reflecting our hopes, our failures. And perhaps that is why we cannot let it go. Not because it was real, but because it feels real. It speaks to something deep within us. The search for Atlantis is not really about finding a lost city. It is about searching for meaning, for connection, for a sense of wonder. It is about asking questions. Who were we? Who are we? Who could we be? And those questions will never stop. So the search continues. Explorers scan the ocean floor. Archaeologists dig in distant lands. Writers imagine new theories. Dreamers keep hoping. And perhaps that is enough. Perhaps the mystery is the point, not the answer. Tonight, we have journeyed far. We have heard Plato's tale. We have explored theories. We have wandered through possibilities. We have searched for Atlantis. And we have not found it. But that is all right. Because the search itself is the gift. Atlantis may be a myth, but myths matter. They shape how we see the world. They inspire our imagination. They remind us of what we have lost and what we might find. So let the mystery remain. Let Atlantis stay lost somewhere beneath the waves, or in the desert, or in our minds. Let it be a dream. And as you drift towards sleep, let yourself wonder. What if it was real? What if somewhere the ruins still wait? What if... Long pause, 10 seconds. Rest now. The search can wait. Good night. Pause 5 seconds. Fade to silence.